The Roman legions are legendary for their discipline and power, but their rise was anything but easy. Before the Caesars, Rome faced fierce enemies who refused to be conquered, the Gauls. These Celtic tribes fought with ferocity and cunning, using the land and surprise to their advantage. Far from being wild barbarians, the Gauls were masters of psychological warfare and tactical innovation. They avoided direct confrontations, instead turning forests and hills into deadly traps for Roman invaders. This is the story of how the so-called barbarians brought Rome to its knees, forcing the superpower to adapt or perish. The clash between Rome's order and the Gauls' wild courage was a collision of worlds. The Romans saw chaos. The Gauls saw opportunity. In the crucible of battle, it was often the Gallic way of war that forced Rome to rethink everything. The Gauls were not a single nation, but a patchwork of Celtic tribes spread across what is now France, Belgium, and beyond. To the Romans, they seemed wild and uncivilized, but this was a dangerous misconception. Gallic society was built on a warrior aristocracy where status was earned in battle and personal glory was everything. Their warriors, tall and fearsome, fought for honor, family, and tribe, often adorned with tattoos, gold torques, and wild hair. The Romans saw only chaos, missing the deep cultural roots and sophisticated craftsmanship behind Gallic arms and armor. The Gauls were skilled metalworkers, farmers, and traders, with a complex spiritual life led by druids. Underestimating them would prove to be a costly mistake for Rome. The Gauls' passion and strategic thinking made them far more than mere barbarians. In 390 BC, the Gauls under Brennus swept into Italy, meeting the Romans at the Allia River. Expecting a straightforward fight, the Romans were instead met with chaos. The Gauls spread out, used the terrain, and unleashed a terrifying war cry. The psychological shock shattered Roman discipline. The Gallic charge broke the Roman lines, sending the legions fleeing in panic. The result was a total rout. Many Romans died or drowned, and the survivors watched as Brennus sacked Rome itself. This defeat was a turning point, exposing the limits of Roman tactics and discipline. The sack of Rome haunted the Republic, forcing it to confront the reality of Gallic military genius. Rome learned that courage and formation alone were not enough. The Gauls had shown that speed, surprise, and terror could topple even the mightiest army. The Gauls' true strength was irregular warfare, especially the ambush. They lured Roman legions deep into forests and hills where discipline meant little. Roman columns strung out on narrow tracks were easy prey for sudden attacks from the woods. War cries, javelins, and a swift charge would split the Roman line, turning order into chaos. The Gauls' mobility was unmatched. They traveled light, used swift cavalry, and even chariots to harass and confuse. Chariots and cavalry probed for weaknesses, while raiders targeted Roman supply lines. Starving a legion was as effective as defeating it in battle. The Gauls turned the landscape into a weapon, using patience and local knowledge to wear down their enemies. Their tactics proved that war could be won with brains as much as with brawn. Rome would never forget these lessons. The Romans were quick learners, and their wars with the Gauls forced them to evolve. They adopted Gallic innovations, longer swords, chainmail armor, and a greater emphasis on cavalry. Roman tactics shifted, with more flexible formations and a focus on scouting and fortified camps. The once rigid legions became adaptable, shaped by the need to counter Gallic unpredictability. The Gauls, though eventually conquered, left a permanent mark on Rome's military machine. They shattered the myth of Roman invincibility and proved that cunning and courage could challenge any empire. The legacy of the Gauls is not defeat, but transformation, a testament to their impact on the ancient world. For a time they made Rome tremble, and their story remains a vital chapter in military history.